Thank you, President London, and I too appreciate folks for being here, coming, demonstrating your care and concern for your children and your schools, for staying here all the way into this part of the meeting, making room to hear everybody's opinions. I think it's critical to be in dialogue. I heard some questions about the guarantee, about the choice, and from board members about our process, and some concern about it not being handled well in the past. We've heard that loud and clear, and we have a pretty detailed process about the transition practices and how we would handle that. So specifically, we will have transition managers if in fact the board makes this decision. We'll have transition managers at each school site. It would also highlight that with so many schools, part of what happens is there is a challenge in terms of some schools arguing that we could grow our enrollment. That has been part of the history in the last 10 years about schools fighting each other. And with so many schools, and some schools saying we could grow our enrollment, that comes at the cost of another school. So we're in a situation where with the number of schools, and to Director Gaio's point, we can actually go through and actually detail out. We have some programs that are on the junior college campus. It is in total 101, so we can go through that and describe that. Some questions about the timeline. The direction I took from the board was to bring back a process and set of recommendations for this year. So in that regard, open to taking the board's direction about changing the timeline, but what I responded to was a request for a set and a process for handling a recommendation for this year. The other concerns and questions I think we can talk about, there's a process called consolidation, and some of what's happening at the Karl Monk campus has to do with when the number of students who actually are there, and it's a process that happens every year. We can describe that in much deeper detail. It's actually not connected to this school closure question, and no, in fact, doesn't have to do with closing off opportunities for Karl Monk and setting them up for being on a quote list next year. So the other questions about taking direction from the board about where to send programs, that's how we operate. We take direction from the board on these core issues. So I can and will bring back the detailed notes, some of the questions from public and also board members about the detailed notes. Those will be posted. What we did is pulled the issues and themes from each of the meetings, but all of the detailed notes from each meeting will also be posted. It's also to the board to decide about the engagement of whether homeowners associations or others that have direct connections to facilities, about how to engage that and do that. And the last question about the size of a school site. We did put out the expectation that Burkhalter and Kaiser would grow their enrollment. They have demonstrated the fastest and most significant increase in achievement for African American students over the last 3 years, and they need to be serving more kids. And so figuring out how to do that, that engagement process begins now at the direction of the board about how to and where to go to do that work with them. And at the root of this goes to Director Yee and others, this balance between maintaining options, which was a gain in an equity-centered strategy, but also continuing to invest in neighborhood schools. So how do you have a criteria that does both of those things? That's a challenge. So we're continuing to regard this, and the specific follow-up we can certainly bring before the next board meeting.